morning, good afternoon, good evening, from wherever you're watching this video from. You're welcome to Cel-fie with Sam, and my name is Sam. So I'm Cel-fie with Sam. So Cel-fie with Sam. All right. Today's class will be looking at the topic variation and natural selection. So when you talk about variation, what comes to your mind? When you talk about natural selection, what exactly comes to your mind? Now, the topic is going to be very brief. I'm going to just go straight to the point and explain what these two concepts are and how they are being applied in real life events. Okay, so without wasting much of our time, let's look at our scope, what we are going to learn here. So here we'll be looking at the meaning of variation, look at the meaning of natural selection. We state the examples of variation and how it affects our gene. We also state the factors affecting variation, and we will describe the processes involved in natural selection. And then lastly, we briefly explain what we refer to as artificial selection. Now, natural selection is the one being done by nature, while artificial is one being done by humans or by artificial factors. Okay. All right, so let's dive into it and see what this is. Sorry, let me remove this. Okay, all right, now here we look at the differences between species. Between species. Now, variation simply refers to as the differences among individuals in a population. That's what variation is all about. The differences between individuals in a population. Okay. Now here we say the huge variety of organisms live in our planet. Yes, we know that. Now organisms these organisms that live in our planet can be classified into different species. Now a species contains individuals with same physical characteristics and common ancestors. For example, they mentioned they have mammals. Mammals, we are human beings, we are of same species. Okay, because we belong to one ancestor, while other mammals belong to their own individual ancestors. So that's what we say the species contains individuals with same physical characteristics and common ancestors. Now there are large differences. Between organisms of different species because they contain different genetic information. So our genes is what makes us unique. Okay, think of us, for example, us being of same species. We have our male and female. So that's one thing that also differentiates us in that species level. So within us, our species is divided into we have a distinctive features that differentiates us as well. Okay. All right. Same thing goes here. Said, for example, monkeys of same species will look very similar, but may vary in color, in weight. It is now. Look at the picture here. You can see all these monkeys. You can see the children. You can see the differences in their color. They are all same species, but something differentiates them as well. So we say the differences that occur between different species and within the same species are called variation. So it can be between different species. It can be between the same species. Like for example, now in your house, you have your siblings, you have your sisters, you have your brothers. Now you're all of same species, but there is something that differentiates you from others. Okay, it can be the skin color, it can be the hair color, it can be the eye color, it can be so many other factors. So that is what variation is. What variation means to vary, to differentiate between two individuals. Okay. Now, this variation, we have already achieved what that is. Then we say that this variation um, can be genetically or it can be as a result of environmental factor. Now, genetically means that it is inherited. Okay, so some of this variation can be inherited through the gene, while some can be done through environmental factors. Now, when you talk about inherited variation, we say it's caused by mutations, recombination during meiosis, that's during separation of chromosomes and all of that. So it can be for so many factors that has to do with the gene. If you know about gene, you know that the father always bring half of his chromosomes, while the mother brings half of her, about half of ours to form a complete human being, which is 46. So that will donate a set, which is 23. Mom will donate her own set, which is 23. So put together to form 46. So that's what we call inherited variation. But when it comes to environment, now this is due to factors like the food we eat, due to factors like climate, and then also lifestyle. Now, this can cause a difference between two individuals of same species. Okay. Now, if you look at these two children, both of them look like twin. If you look at the picture here, these two children, both of them look like twin. Look at this one here. Now, both of them are actually twin. But can you identify the variation that exists between them? Now, you can see one is wearing glasses, while the other one is not wearing glasses. Okay, despite the fact that they're of same species, one is having eye defect kind of, while the other one is not having eye defect. So this can be as a result of diet, can be as a result of lifestyle, can be as a result of what they inherited actually. Now this eye defect can also be as a result of what inherited factors. Okay. All right, so this here, this picture also shows us both the inherited variation, and then also shows us the environmental variation. Now you can pause the video and look at this image and identify those things here that are inherited and those things that are environmental. You can pause that and identify before you continue. Okay, so moving on. Like I said before, when we talk about inherited, this is deciding if a character is inherited or caused by environmental can be cause a lot of confusion. Now there can be discussion, sorry, not confusion, discussion. Now scientists have now decided that only 4 human features are truly inherited and not affected by environmental at all. Only 4. So you mentioned those 4. What are they? So we'll talk about the eye color, we'll talk about the hair color, we'll talk about the blood group, and then we'll talk about diseases, inherited diseases. Now, you talk about eye color, it can be blue, can be brown, can be any other color of the eye. And I talk about hair color, it can be white, it can be gold, it can be brown, it can be black, and so on and so forth. When I talk about blood group, it can be A blood group, it can be B, it can be AB, it can be O, and some other uncommon blood groups you have out there. Talk about diseases, it can be hemorrhage, it can be albinism. Most of them are not actually disease, they're just a deformity. It can be sickle cell, and so on and so forth. So these are the ones that these scientists came up with, the 4 human features that are truly inherited. Now, some other one can be both inherited as inherited and environmental as well. Okay, so these 4 now, they are the truly inherited fact features according to these scientists. Okay, so when looking at those ones that can be in both, can be mixed. So most features are caused by mixture of inheritance and environmental factors. Take for instance, somebody's nose is of this shape, but as a result of accident or other environmental factors, the person might break his or her nose, and as a result of that, the person will require to have a kink in it. Now, kink is just something that helps keep the person's nasal cavity open. There can be a hook that will keep the nose open because it's broken or something. So, at this point, the shape of the nose, which used to be inherited, can now change as a result of environmental factor. It can also be like you have today, people going for surgeries, trying to change their look, trying to change the shape of their nose, the shape of their face, and all of that. So sometimes it can be a mixture of inheritance and then also environmental factors. Okay, now we'll talk about continuous and discontinuous as well. Now this variation can be, the first one we said it can be inherited, it can be environmental factors. Then also it can also referred to as fact that it can be continuous and it can be also be discontinuous. Now, when you talk about continuous and discontinuous, what exactly do they mean when you talk about continuous and discontinuous? Now, let's look at it this way. Let's look at it this way. Look at continuous, for example. Say some differences. Look at some differences. Something between people are like rainbow. Now, when we talk about rainbow, we're looking at the rainbow having multiple colors. So differences among it can be like a rainbow. Now where the colors blend, smoothly into each other. Now take for example, look at height. Some people are short, some are tall, some are in between being tall or being short. Look at skin color also, for example. Now, skin color can change gradually. Now, somebody told me the other day, said, why is it that some babies are born fair, but as they are growing, their skin color they turn dark? So you see now, that's what shows there is a continuous talk. A continuous changes. Things keeps changing over time. Okay. Then look at height as weight as well. Weight is also a continuous change. So people can be very light, some can be very heavy, or some can still be in between. So this is called continuous variation because there are many possible values. There are many possible values. Okay, just the way we have multiple shades in a rainbow. Now here we say continuous variation. The feature can be measured and given a value from range of values. So there are many possible values. When you talk about someone who is high, who is tall, you can say someone who is 1.85 meters is tall. Someone who is 1.8 meters is also tall. Someone who is 1.7 meters is also. There are lots of values that you can count. So that's why I use the word. It is it's continuous. It keeps the values that are multiple. It keeps changing over time. But when it comes to discontinuous, look at okay, this is the continuous. You can see the chart. You can see the chart. See those under 120. See those under 120. You see the height. See the number of people. See the number of people that are sorry under 120. Here is number of people. Here is so those under 120 is of this number. Those under 120 to 129 is of this number. So it's a continuous value. The value keeps changing over time. Okay. Now, when it comes to discontinuous, said what would you expect a graph showing the result of a survey of eye color to look like? It doesn't have a value. So all we have is those with brown eye. These are the ones with brown eye, not like those with brown eye that looks whitish. That kind of thing. No, there is not it's not a continuous like we said before. It's a discontinuous. But look at this. Now, look at other examples like types of fruits. You either belong to a group or you belong to another. So you either belong to a group of those with brown eye or you belong to a group of those with blue eye. So there's nothing like range. So that's why it's called a discontinuous. There is no in between. For example, now someone for blood groups, you can be A, you can be blood group A, you can be blood group B, you can be blood group AB, or you can be blood group O, but nothing in between. Same thing for there's one called tongue rolling. Is either you're able to roll your tongue. Let me see. I can't even roll my tongue. So it's either you're able to roll your tongue or you cannot. So it's either you are this or you are not. Okay, eye color, same thing. Is either you are brown, blue, and so on and so forth. So this is called discontinuous variation because you fit into one group or another. Just like how an apple is always on an apple and never have an orange. So an apple will always be an apple, not some part apple and some part orange. No. Okay. So an eye color survey would likely produce a graph similar. So it's either you're brown or there's nothing like range. If you go back to the other one, you can see range. So those from 120 to 129, that's why that one is a continuous stuff. Okay. All right. So we'll look at competition now. What is competition? I believe in your school you do inter-house sports competition, whereby you fight for you struggle to be the best, the number one runner up and all of that. So organisms compete for resources at the same, so such as food, water, and space in order to survive. Okay. Now competition occurs between members of same species and members of different species. Now competition can exist between those of same species. Competition can also exist between those of different species. So all of them is competition. Okay. Now look at this. Okay, before we talk about this, the variation between individuals means that some will better will be better at competing than others. Some will be better at competing than the others. Think of in a forest or in a grassland, lion, tiger, all those lion, tiger, jaguar, and some other animals that both the ones you see in a grassland, those you don't. There are some features they possess that will that puts them in a better position to compete than the others. Like for example, their claws, their speed, how fast they run, and all of that. So these are features that gives them it keeps them at ahead of others. Okay. Now there's also what called natural selection. Natural selection. Now, when it comes to natural selection, there's this scientist that used the giraffe. This scientist called Jane Lamarck. Now, this guy came up with the postulate. He said that every living, let's say he used the giraffe. He said giraffe, because they live in a place where trees are high, from where they are, trees are tall. So for that, they need to stretch their neck to feed from those trees. So he said that is the reason why their neck started growing taller or longer, because they stretch their neck to feed, to eat from the trees. So for as a result of that, their neck started stretching, started going taller. Okay. Same thing in school. They used to use the word say, "Why are you giraffing?" Meaning that because you are stretching your neck to copy from your neighbor. So they say, "Why are you giraffing?" That's where the concept came from, the word giraffe. And then also for the competition, the concept that says the concept that says survival of the fittest. That's where it was first it was originated from. Survival of the fittest. Only the fittest, the ones that are fit, they are the ones that will survive. That's why I said it means that some with better at competing than others. So they are stronger, they are fit than others. Okay. Okay, so this is a giraffe. You can see the way the giraffe is stretching the neck to feed from the tall tree. Okay. Now, when the giraffe now give birth to their children, the gene of tall neck will now be transferred to the children. So the environment has helped the giraffe to develop those features, those characteristics that will now be transferred to the children. So the children that's coming into the environment will come in carrying those features. So that's why you see in a certain place, you see in a certain place that is populated by a certain type of animal. That is because what we call natural selection. The environment made it possible. The environment dictated for them that this is what you need to survive in here. So for that, every organism living there will have to develop that same feature. So here we said these individuals will pass on these useful characteristics to the next generation. Then over time, these characteristics will become more and more common in the population. This is what we call natural selection. So in this situation, this is where the environment dictates what is required for an organism to survive in a certain environment, and the result of that, these characteristics will now be transferred to other organisms as they come, making the whole environment to be populated by organisms of almost same characteristics. Okay, so if you are to define natural selection, we say natural selection is a process by which organisms with traits better suited for their environment survive and reproduce more successfully. So organisms, as time goes, they will develop traits or features that will help them survive in that environment, and then it will not help as they are surviving. They will not transfer this same gene to their offspring in order to keep their offspring. Okay, think of polar bear. Polar bear lives in a polar region. That's why they added the word polar. There are other bears and they are not polar. So it lives in a region at the Antarctica where the region is very cold and filled with ice. So this animal developed some features that will help them survive in that environment. And one of the features are large fur within their skin that keeps them warm, and then also they have fat deposit within their skin that produces heat. So when this animal wants to reproduce, they are going to give birth to children that will come out with large furs as well, like their parents, and then also they will still have large excess deposits of fat within them that will help them survive in that environment. So that's what we call natural selection. So if you go to the polar region, what you will see there is more of a polar bears and some other animal that can survive. I think white fox is also survive the white fox. So the animals you see there, they're those ones that are being selected by nature, by that environment to survive there. So that's why it's called natural selection. When it comes to artificial selection, some of these animals will be, or not just this animal, some people will train themselves. Like take for instance, if I'm to go live in the polar region, I will need to go with sweatshirt, things that will keep me warm all through my stay there, so that I will not freeze. So I'm creating an artificial adaptation for myself in order to survive in that environment. Okay, so that's what we refer to as natural selection. Okay. Now, this talks about effect of environmental change. Now, animals become adapted to suit the environment, helping them survive and reproduce. However, if the environment changes, they may be no longer they will be no longer have this advantage. Think of that polar bear. If that polar region should stop being cold and turn out to be warm, you see now the polar bear will no longer survive there, so they will need to move because they've already developed features that will help them survive in a cold place, something that keeps them warm. But if that place turn out warm, they will either get extinct or they will look for relocate to another region where they can survive. So there's a reason why we always take note of these animals that is in the verge of extinction. We try to save them. That's what we refer to as conservation. Now, extinction can cause a decrease in biodiversity. When we talk about biodiversity, biodiversity is referring to an environment where we have multiple varieties of life within. That's what referred to as the word bio there means life. Diversity means more diverse, different, multiples. Look at the ocean, for example. Ocean is said to be the one with the highest biodiversity because there are a lot of fishes, mammals, different things even plants within the ocean. So when there's an extinction, it's going to cause a decrease in the biodiversity in that environment. So how do we save this? We save this by conserving. Conservation means to preserve. Let's assume that there's a particular species of bird within the environment that we have just one or two remaining. So that means that those birds that we call them the endangered species, they are about to go into extinction. So for that, we gather them together and put them in a place where they will survive, mostly in the zoo. That's why I have these conservation centers we have in the world today. So they will gather them and put them there for them not to die. Okay, so that is what conservation is. So conserving biodiversity is very important as every living thing plays a vital role in the ecosystem. So every living thing plays a vital role. So you need to conserve them. Now the extinction of one species can have a huge impact on the rest of the community. Extinction can also decrease the resources available to humans. For example, some medicines are made from plants. If a plant species become extinct, its unique chemicals are no longer available to us. So you see why it's very dangerous. So extinction is very dangerous to humans and other animals. So we need to conserve. We need to conserve. Okay. So that is all about this topic. I believe you understood every bit of it. All right. So thank you very much. If you had, like I said before, if you have a question, don't hesitate to drop it in the comment box. I will get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. I still remain your Cel-fie with Sam. So see you in our next video. Thank you. Bye.